to my YouTube channel. In this particular video, what we will do is we'll try to understand one more very interesting topic called as microservices. Let's try to understand what all these microservices are, and why we really need these services nowadays. Whenever, like, everybody, any bigger organization you take, everybody is talking about the microservices architecture, doing the development of the bigger application using a microservice architecture. Okay, so to understand the microservices in a better way, we need to go little in past, I would say, and try to understand how the software development across the industry has been taken place, right? So if you remember, maybe kind of 20-25 years back, mostly all the applications that were being developed was desktop based application. Now when I say desktop based application, is you have to get those applications, install them, uh, you know install them on your PCs, right? If you remember, like, get the exe or maybe binary of that application, and then you install it on your machine, right? And then start using it. Like, for example, if you remember how we used to use MS Word a few years back, that we have to install that particular Microsoft Word software on our machine, right? And surprisingly, for this particular installation, you're not needed any kind of internet connection or something like that. The requirement was, get the exe file, get the binary of Microsoft Word, and then just double click it and do the next. I hope you remember this still. And then once it is installed successfully on your machine, you start using it, right? So this was the way your applications were being developed, and even the users used to use it in this particular fashion of a desktop based application, where you would not need any kind of internet. It is just made for your personal use, right? And this was kind of maybe starting off the application development, and people started using many softwares from many fields, all the desktop based application management systems, like, let's say, medical, your pharmacy management systems, what not, used to get developed using the desktop based application, and ultimately we used to create the exe file which gets generally installed on the desktops, and you're good to go. But then later on, when the usage of personal computers, the computerization happened across all over the industry, and the requirement of using a computer for carrying out your business was exponentially grown. And that time, kind of, there was a change in the approach. And obviously in that time, internet has also been came into the existence, and people were talking about the internet, the usages of internet, and people started developing the websites, right? So this is where the second approach of developing the application, where people, instead of developing the application using the desktop based thought process or independent application, people started moving to developing websites and going more global, right? So basically, whenever anyone wants to do a website launch, and as the user of that particular website, what you used to need is just a browser. So what you do is, you just install a browser, type the URL of website, and you are good to go. So the necessity of actually installing a software was no more needed. You just have to have a browser, and you are good to go. You just type the URL of the website, and then the software is accessible for you. Now the deployment pattern that was used for deploying the internet based application was the client server, right? So basically there are some servers, right, where the application used to get deployed, right? So these are the, let's say, servers, and here application used to get deployed, right? And obviously you must here you should have a kind of a browser, and using this browser you just can basically hit the website URL as we have mentioned here, and then you can get that software, you can get access to this particular software on your browser. Now considering the development of these applications, right, even though this particular the usage of the servers and whatnot is become very easy, you as a user of that particular service don't have to install any kind of software on your machine and whatnot, but the deployment was still, it's a very difficult thing. Now when I say difficult thing, how it used to happen is you have to let's say you have to display you have to basically you know uh, develop your application, right? So let me just sketch it. You have to develop your application, right? And you have to again basically deploy it as the entire code, right, onto a server. This is our, let's say, server, and here is your code. Deployment used to happen, right? So it's your application development team who used to develop these websites, and then they used to deploy it over here. Now let's talk about various things that may happen as a part or as a functionality of these web services. So maybe user authentication, then let's talk about the e-commerce website. Let's say there is some someone who is trying to develop the website, right, or a e-commerce platform. So what all things they have to take care? They have to take care of user authentication. They have to maintain the up-to-date product list, right? Then sales, right? Then new products. What else? And maybe offers, right? So these are kind of main modules that are present as a part of your application development. And now let's say, and these are like, if you see them, these are really independent. Like ultimately consolidating all these kinds of separate modules is nothing but your entire application. But per se, if you think of all these small modules from a development perspective, all these modules are independent. So what used to happen is, whenever this application development teams, right, used to bundle all these different modules as a one single code, and then they used to deploy the entire code as a one single application on the server. So let it be kind of a granulated or modularized functionality that has been already taken care by dividing your entire application into multiple modules, implementing the code at the best practices, then doing the git related code check-ins and whatnot. So basically long story short is, all the best practices needed for application development was taken care, but when it comes to deploying a application onto a server, it was still a single point of failure. Basically, this code deployment was still causing a problem, right? Because if, let's say, something happens to, user authentication module, or something happens to sales module, something is crashed or something is not working, or maybe some module has bug that someone has cached after you deploy the code, then irrespective of which module has a bug, you have to deploy and test the entire module here, right? So my point is that irrespective, like let's say there is some bug that people have found in the user authentication, and let's say now they fixed it and now they want to deploy the application. So there was no bug in these four modules, but still they have to deploy those because the deployment is happening as a single application only, right? And that was the main problem. And like in the production environment, you must be aware that unless and until you test your code, you cannot deploy it. So even though there was like no changes happened in your product list, sales, new products, offers module, you have to test those before you deploy, right? The change was only in the user authentication module, but still without any reason, since you want to deploy it, you have to test all these four modules as well. And that's the reason it started, creating unnecessary overhead, unnecessary stretch in the deployments, because testing a module and doing things related to that do take lots of time, right? And that's the reason the concept of microservices came into the picture, where they have even uh, you know modularized the deployment parts as well. So what has happened in the microservices section is, now they have already taken care of modules as a different different modules per application. Like for example, let's say there is a bigger application, right? Let's name it as, so so in this particular application, what they have already done is they have already developed different modules of it. So let's say this is my module 1, likewise I have, let's say, module 2, module 3, it's my module 4, let's say module 5. This is module 1, this is module 2, this is module 3, this is module 4, this is module 5. So, and but ultimately here what used to happen is, every module used to be get deployed as a one single application itself. So let's say this is the server. So this was the previous deployment architecture, and this entire application used to get deployed here, right? But now, since with all the challenges that we have talked, that even though something wrong goes with the module 1, you have to redeploy all rest of the modules, even though those were working fine. To address this, what they have done is they have just cut short this particular part as well, and instead of deploying all the modules as one single application on one single server, what they have done is they have just deployed these application, right, as a separate application. So this is my, let's say, server first, then this is for server 2, server 4, and server 5. So server 3, server 4, and server 5. So here what will happen is that module 1 will be deployed on server 1, module 2 will be deployed on server 2, module 3 will be deployed on server 3, module 4 will be deployed on server 4, and module 5 will be deployed on server 5. And this particular architectural concept is known as microservices. So as the name suggests, right, microservices, so entire bigger application is being now modularized into main modules like module 1, module 2, which are ideally independent of each other from the functionality perspective. And then even their deployments as well, they are being deployed onto the different servers. This is on server 1. So now this it's a very simplified architecture, I would say, from a implementation and from a deployment perspective as well. So tomorrow, let's say something happens or something wrong happens to your module 2, so you don't have to really touch to the rest of the modules. Like really don't have to do anything with the module 1, 3, 4, and 5. They'll be still as it is. You don't have to even touch them. You just fix your bug from the module 2 and then just to redeploy module 2 on server 2. So the interdependency between the modules and between the deployment server as well is no more there. It is a way easier, way simplified architecture, and even the downtime of an entire application is also reduced a lot, right? And obviously the time to recover, like let's say if something wrong with the module 3, then you just have to fix that particular thing, test the independent module 3, and then just redeploy the module 3 on server 3, and then you are good to go. You really don't have to test the rest of the modules 1, 2, 4, and 5 if something goes wrong with the module 3, because they are not dependent and you really don't have to touch them. But on the same lines, having said that, you don't have to really touch any other module if while redeploying or relaunching some other module, still they can communicate with each other with the help of the REST API calls. So basically, if a module 1 wants to want to get some kind of information from module 3, then we can call the APIs that are being exposed by module 3 and then get the information whatever module 2 needs. And this particular communication, this then module 2, it's a basically intra communication. It's nothing like any module can communicate with any other module, and they communicate with each other with the help of the REST APIs, right? REST APIs. So this particular communication is been done through the REST APIs, and this entire architecture is known as microservice architecture. I hope this clarifies you the concept of microservice architecture and how it exactly works. The communication between the interdependent modules is been handled by REST APIs. Okay, and if you want to get more details about what REST APIs are and whatnot, then I'll give you the link of one of my already recorded video in the I button. Just make sure you watch this. Okay, so thanks guys, thanks for watching this. I hope this clarifies you that what exactly the what microservices are, what is their architecture, how the single point of failure of deployment is being handled, and those kind of stuff. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.